Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar on GE Centricity for front office workflows. And in this case, it will be concentrated on pre-certification. Any questions regarding the content I'm about to show you, please feel free to submit your questions using the chat feature. And if I'm able, I will try to answer your questions during the presentation. And if not, I will cover them afterward if time allows at the end of the presentation. The presenter is myself, Mona Reimers. I'm the Director of Revenue Services with Orthopedics Northeast and one of the senior consultants for DataDrivers, a wholly owned subsidiary of Orthopedics Northeast. I do have to disclose that some of the slides you're seeing today may be partially or similar to the illustrations in a book that I co-authored with Nate Moore, published by MGMA. To give a little background, DataDrivers was founded in 2013, and we are a wholly owned subsidiary of Orthopedics Northeast, as I said, and we are in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He is a 54-year-old company and has been in Centricity since 2002. We've been on the EMR since 2006. O&E has practices, launched our EHR through the trial and tribulations that most people have experienced. We were struggling. We have staff and providers who were initially very unhappy with going to an EHR. And we knew that we had to do something to make EHRs or make GE Centricity work for us, or possibly look around for other software. When we did that, we realized that our EHR was no different than any other brands of EHRs. We really needed to just be able to make it work well. At that point, we decided to go out and visit other practices, and we learned from them, and we hope that you are able to learn something from us today. As we progressed, we began to realize that we could use our data not just for purposes that the government said or to get our daily work done, but as a competitive weapon. Where we are trying to be better ourselves and make staff and physicians happier as well. This use of Centricity products in a live environment has helped us develop many medical practice solutions. This is the fourth in a series of webinars where we have demonstrated Centricity the way we use it in our medical practices. If you have other questions, you can visit our website, www.designatedddatadrivers.com, or you may reach out to me. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation. To begin today, we have several objectives, as you can see here. I do want to say that these slides were also somewhat presented at the most recent Centricity User Group Conference. At that point in time, it was called Hoarders and Biggest Losers, your Precert department. So those of you who have, I see a couple of familiar faces in their first webinar. You're getting a second shot at some of this and a little bit of new content as well. So, as I said before, we're over 50 years old. We have 13 locations here in Northeast Indiana, 81 providers. We have 12 Precert specialists who work in the office and the surgical thing, so they're working on both types of cases that might need prior authorization. We try to rotate the staff through some specialties. We try to rotate through different work queues because some things can be more intense than others. Some things take more training than others. Rotation is a little bit based on training and where we are and how backed up we are and what have you. So it isn't a definite art form in terms of rotating the staff around, but that's how we get here. So initially, when you're, in the boardroom with physicians, Precert, how hard can it be? It goes in for surgery or gets something scheduled. The Precert department asks for authorization. The insurance company says yes or no, and you're done. So, but it just kind of doesn't work like that. And I know that those of you on the call probably realize that. What actually kind of happens more likely is that the patients are triaged because, you have some things that you're working, hey, we have a broken arm or leg, it's got to be set tomorrow. So you've got to work on that pre-cert right now. Other things are like, well, they're scheduled 6 weeks out. The insurance company maybe won't let us do it that far out in advance. So you're stuck going back and forth. You're constantly triaging your work in pre-cert. Also, how far out in advance will a payer work? How difficult is it to get an authorization? If it's an insurance company that's easy to work with, you might put that off if you're working with something else that's really time sensitive. Again, triaging is a big part of pre-cert. The other thing that happens is, you know, payers, some of them want it by website, some of it want it by fax, some of it want you to fax or get on the website, sign up some sort of a case, and then they'll give you a case number, and then they want you to fax all the notes. So all kinds of processes involved, and also then there's the good old telephone system. Pre-cert department, they'll start off asking for authorization depending on the way the payer prefers it. Does the payer need records? And then you get records, and did the insurance say yes or no, and then the surgery happens or it doesn't. To put an image of where we are, we'll just pause for a minute because we have anesthesia pain blocks that we get authorization for. We do our own anesthesia in surgery, meaning that we have some of our physicians are anesthesiologists and they work with our surgeons, so we're also doing their prior authorizations. We have advanced imaging, CT, MRI, that kind of thing. We're helping with physical therapy orders for authorization, medications, which are becoming a growing issue, particularly in orthopedics need management, office visits, and surgery. So just to give you an idea, we're at nearly 25,000 surgeries a year, 20,000 office visits that need authorization. Of course, we do a lot more office visits than that, but that need authorizations. At about 50,000 medications, physical therapy at 10,000, and so forth. So there's quite a few events that have to be authorized on an annual basis. So what really happens is it's a little more like this. They schedule something, and then do they need therapy and conservative care first? Do they need medications? Do they need pre-op or post-op meds? I mean, sometimes you have to do two medication authorizations. And so then you start the authorizations and go through this whole thing. I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can see how many authorizations are really involved here, and then you've got to triage that work to what can be done, what in the right order, given the timelines that you have based on the payers, based on what you have to do. So I know there's people with different specialties online today, but have similar issues in every specialty regardless. It doesn't have to specifically be about orthopedics to have the same kind of craziness, and this is only the beginning. Then, of course, we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait some more, and we're always checking back to see if they've received our data, and then we have to start all over again. So our old processes were very, very laden with paperwork. They were just crazy. I'll just tell you that when they would come in the morning, the first thing the Precert staff would do is it would print from today's schedule out everything that was scheduled in surgery or the office, depending on who was working what. And it wouldn't be uncommon to have 70 pages of paper wasted while they printed that schedule, and then they would start from today and would click on every single patient's appointment and make sure it was authorized, and they would click on every single surgery and make sure it was authorized, and that's how they were sure that nothing got added on, because you know that you think about everything authorized and then something got added on yesterday after you went home, and there it is. So they would start over. The problem is most things weren't added on. Most things have been on the books for a while, and the unfortunate part with staff always wanting to double check, never wanting to be the one to let something slip on their watch, would open it up, make sure that it was covered, and make sure the authorization was in there, and then move on to this one. So it was uncommon for some people to perhaps have their surgery case opened 10 times over the course of a month or what have you to make sure that that surgery had been indeed authorized. We also had a situation where we were definitely understaffed. We had problems with processes being paper-driven, and everybody was very afraid that they were going to miss an authorization, and we all know that when an authorization is missed, there's extreme cost involved to the practice. Sometimes they're held liable by other people, like the anesthesiologist or the hospital is saying, hey, you didn't get that authorized, you owe us. So this is an expensive mistake. And so when it happens, of course, everybody who, most workers care very much about their jobs. They care very much about the people they work for. They don't want that to happen. I will be honest with you and share that we had a bad culture in Precert as well. The culture was a lot of parking lot conversations about what was going wrong and how heroic some people were and how other people weren't carrying their weights. And, of course, a margin of truth in everything and a lot of wasted time in that kind of environment. But mostly, I've always been a big believer in this particular quote. I read it years ago, and I've used it many times. But when you step into a turnaround situation, you can safely assume four things. Morale is low, fear is high, the good people are halfway out the door, and the slackers are hiding. And I know that that was true for our group. So if you're in that same situation, we all can identify. It's a small group of people. We have a great culture overall in our company, but we definitely had issues in this department, and they needed our help. But every time we tried to invoke any change, the change was met with resistance because it meant pulling away the paper, it meant taking away their processes, and it was very difficult to say to someone, okay, get that, change, make that change, and then have them work independently without their safety blanket or their, catch their own system, and they were just extremely worried that they were going to miss something. And so for that reason, getting change in Precert was difficult, and it took a couple years to be honest. So the first thing you need to know about our processes in Centricity is we do use cases. For every surgical event, we use a case. For every office event, office procedure, we use a body part. So we create a case for a body part, and that body part then follows the patient all the way through because we like the decrementing is built into Centricity, so we love the case perspective in that part of Centricity. Open and close a case for every surgical event as well. We do only use one for surgery, even when we're covering anesthesia too. Usually we can use one authorization for both, even for post-op pain blocks. So this is where we document everything, and we use this field, the authorization number, when we start an authorization. So Tina has started working on this authorization. So she's entered 2 asterisks in the case under the authorization number. So now when we query the system, we know Tina is working on this, because the trouble with Precert also is that you're frequently working on something and then it has to be reworked because you're waiting on somebody to get back with you from the insurance company. One of the first things we had to do was get them to stop printing. We had to look at every workflow that was causing them to print and make sure that everybody was comfortable that we were asking them not to print. Now, there's still a lot of printing on in Precert, because sometimes we have to print the medical record so we can fax it. We have to print, or we get faxes back from the insurance company wanting other things, but we are not printing if we can help it, and we are not the cause of the printing as a rule. I also needed a work list that people could work from. So you'll see in this slide here, we've created a table pulling data from the scheduling, and the cases, and we've, from here, someone can come in and let's just say that I am Allison, and so I have asterisk, AB, that's my name. So I can go in and I can sort under the column that says number here, and and I can sort and just have the ABs come up, so I can clean up any work I've started. Sort by insurance company, I can sort by position, I can sort by date created or date of the procedure. So depending on what I need to work on, this gives me the flexibility of being able to look for those add-ons or look for certain kinds of cases or certain kinds of insurance or cases I've started that I need to go back and look at. Creating this was a real important step as well, giving them that sort of a work list. This took a while to get right. I think we probably had 3 or 4 versions of this before we figured out what we wanted. We also set up our EHR forms so that when something was ordered, if it required conservative care or some other kind of treatment, that if it wasn't documented, they would get a pop-up note, and in some cases it would be forced. It kind of depends on, it always need it, or do we just need it sometimes for some payers. So, but that indication that conservative care or other requirements haven't been met, and the chance of that authorization not going through is being alerted at the time that the order is being written. So if they need to also write an order for therapy or medications or home something, whatever it is they need, it can be done and recognize that it needs to be done right then. We also wanted to have workflows in the order entry part of Precert processes. So when the work, when certain things are occurring in the orders, Precert is now being notified immediately. And this is, again, as part of the EMR functionality. So if someone's ordering surgery, they're ordering an MRI, CT, they're automatically now being directed to Precert. So they also are involved right away, rather than waiting for it to be added to the schedule. We also, in our EMR forms now, it's auto-populating, let me rephrase. Many of our forms that the carriers require or the payers require are being auto-populated by the EMR. So the data that we have in the EMR is flowing directly into the forms that the carrier wants created. And also use the EMR forms to communicate back and forth between the medical teams. These EMR forms and reports. And I apologize, I'm losing my voice here from a cold, so I do apologize to you folks. So, in here, when the when the office is ordering some injections that we know have to be prior approved, as the order is being completed, you see that red button there that says start the pre-approval process for visco supplements. That's clicked. It's going to go on to the Pre-cert department so that it can be authorized before it's scheduled. So it goes off to Pre-cert, and they will get it ordered, or they will get it authorization, and then they will schedule it. And then there are some things where we can only get one authorization, for instance, for the first visit for a visco supplement, and need to have a second and a third. In those cases, as soon as the patient has had the first one, it automatically authorizes, or it sends a flag to Precert, flag, and they will authorize it, or they will know then it's time to go ahead and get the authorization for the second visit. In this case, this is the authorization form that is automatically completed by our EMR. This case happens to be United Healthcare for visco supplement. And after it's been ordered and we've started to work with United to get this authorization, you can see that all of the information United wants is in here. And you can also see on the far left the number of different carriers we're working with. We have gotten their approval to take their form, populate it, and then from here we can either secure email it or fax it directly from the computer system. It saves a lot of time and energy, as you can imagine, with all the auto-populated data about payer, about the patient. about the requested information that we are asking for authorization and what the payer typically needs in order to give us that authorization. It's a lot of time. Here we have two kinds of boxes that we use, flag boxes. These are group flag boxes. They are not owned by one our user. These group flag boxes we have for inpatient and outpatient procedures. So different staff, again, can work different days. They can work in one, they can be assigned to work in different boxes, flag boxes, excuse me. They can sort here as well. This is another place where sorting is allowed, and you know, they can sort by start date, or they can sort by doctor, or from who was the order in the flag box. We try to give the staff different tools to look at the same information. As managers in the department, we wanted to be able to tell how many days did we need to authorize, and how many days out did we have to leave to get that authorization done, and how many were started and we were still awaiting information. You see here, in the next 30 days, how many authorizations do we need to get, and how many days do we have to get it done? Blue means that we have started getting that authorization. So we've already put in a request with the payer, we made a phone call, we sent a fax, we sent email, whatever they needed, the information, and asked for that to be done. The light yellow is the cases things that are added on today that we haven't yet started. And then the orange is we've now had it on our system for more than 2 days and we haven't started it. This actually goes out about 180 days, so we can see it out. It turns red if it's been more than 5 business days that we haven't started something. Which would be the case of something over 30 days out. We oftentimes won't have it started yet. And we can have some situations where it could be more than 31 days, and then it turns green. We also can have some that the insurance company won't let us start yet, and in those cases we have it turn black. So it just depends on where the patient is in the number of days we have left to get on. This has been a great monitoring tool. This is also something that we have automatically sent to us through SSRS reporting services, SQL Server reporting services, which is a feature that you've paid for since you have SQL in your system. It does is it runs this report every day at 3 o'clock, and a handful of us, probably about 10 or 15 of us, maybe even 20 of us on this particular report, get this email at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. So we'll know we're seeing the same data, and that has helped, again, with some of our culture issues. And, we can send out a little praise to everybody, hey, looking good, or could someone check on day 21 and figure out what's going on here? Why do we have a couple that haven't been started yet? Whatever we need to do, it's just a great tool. No one to run it. You can run this during the day, but if you don't want to, it just comes to your mailbox automatically. So this is a report we had built. It's Crystal Report, I believe. And what it is we had a problem with a particular hospital here in town. No matter how many times we call them and give them the authorizations for particular surgeries, they would always seem to lose it. What we did is built this report to auto-fax out of our system every patient and their authorization information between now and forever. If they have something scheduled at this particular hospital, it will automatically be on this report twice a day. They get it faxed to them. And so it's eliminated a whole lot of phone calls coming into the office because we would call, we would tell them, we would fax them the information and they'd lose it. Now they're going to get it twice a day, so they quit calling us and interrupting our workflow. This is probably one of the best tools that we created, and this is a tool that we have a prior authorization that's denied. This report, or this is an EMR form form that we created that the person working the prior authorization who now knows that this has been denied and now something needs to be done will open this form up. She'll complete the reason for the denial. She can also put in the documentation required by payers. She can click any one of those things over in the middle there. No, over here to the right. Yeah. Right there. Sorry. I'm using a helper. And so the documentation required by the payer can be clicked off there. And then she can sign it, not as a signature in the EMR, but she can sign it, her name to the Precert signature area there, and route it to the physician or the physician team. When they open this document, then they can say what the doctor has agreed to or will do to have this prior authorization continue. So it could be ordering physical therapy in this case, home exercise, whatever. You know, if they click yes, then the button to order that electronically appears on the far right. So if they say yes, order physical therapy, well, all they have to do then is click that, it'll order physical therapy, and we can go on to the next thing and the next thing. It saves a lot of screen jumping. Sorry, would you go back? One last thing, then, if there's a couple last things actually on this. As you get down further, a little further in the on this form, if different people need to be notified, let's say the surgery is going to be canceled or rescheduled or what have you. There's a host of people that need to know. The hospital needs to know. The pre-cert has to be told what's happening, but the patient, of course, needs to know what's going to happen. So all of the people who need to know this information are right there towards the bottom, so that it's sort of a record keeping that we have notified everybody. And if the doctor wants to do a peer-to-peer, that can be scheduled. You can't quite see that. Some of that's covered up there, but in the far bottom left, if their peer-to-peer it occurs, it can be noted there as well. And then it can be finally signed off by the clinical team. So this has been a real time saver. Our Pre-cert department is in an entirely different building than any of our clinical areas. So again, just being able to communicate without interrupting them in the middle of clinic, or that doctor's in surgery that day. So maybe he has someone who's helping him with some clinical information or clinical work in the hallway. We can run to that person. So again, it's been a great form for us. So I guess they just give you a little bit of the keys to success here. Again, Pre-cert, it can be messy. Quite this bad in our office, according to this picture, but it was messy. You got to start off trying to make something better. You don't have to try to fix it all at one time. In fact, if you do, you'll certainly be on the wrong path. It definitely requires a marketing component to any kind of change in the office. If you want to, you have to explain to people why you're going to try to make it, what's in it for them. You need a trial on each step of the way. Don't try to do everything at once. Trial just, even one doctor or half a day or 3 patients or one insurance. Whatever it's going to take, you need to trial it. So successes. And when that's part of the marketing, saying, this is why we're going to do it, and then when you're successful, or, hey, you weren't successful 100%, but you learned a lot, now you're going to try it again, and this time you're sure it's going to be a little bit better. By marketing that, because you're marketing that you're going to get more buy-in. The hard part with fixing things in Pre-cert is it definitely involves some of the providers. Providers either maybe have to fill out forms differently, or they have, maybe they've already been made aware that there's problems in Pre-cert because their cases are getting canceled, or they're getting things back to them that have to be redone because it wasn't documented with conservative care. So that marketing, it goes in all directions, and then you have to make sure they know, hey, we have tried to fix that. We think we've gone to something here. Have you noticed this lately? Or, let me know if you see this because I think we fixed it. It's a good thing to do. So you need to get out and market it and celebrate successes at the same time. And Verify that changes that you have made have continued, because there were many times when we went out to the Precert department, asked them if we try something new, back for a few days or weeks, and then realized that they went right back to their old processes. You have to stay engaged. Very good to have your EMR resources available and helping in these kinds of things, having them stay engaged as well, because you may tell them to do something for you and they do exactly what you asked them to do and maybe not what you needed them to do, because you didn't know that thing wasn't, quite the way they say or what they mean, what they know exactly what you mean. So you have to stay engaged both in every step of the way with every player who's a part of this. So at this point in time, we'll open it up for questions. So we have one question here, and that is how many people are working in your Precert department? Well, I think we answered this earlier with that we have 18 total. About 4 or 5 of those people work in the office-based Precert area, and then the rest work in the surgical. We have 4 management providers. They have a high-volume pain practice. Each of them have high-volume pain practice, so they have a lot of medications. They also have a lot of procedure orders that need prior authorization. So our numbers may be a little skewed if there's other orthopedic providers out there. Just to a little bit of background on that. Other questions? How did you build your forms for the for the payers? Can we go back to that slide? Keep going. Yeah, that one. So this slide here, just to say how we did it. I'm an IT person, so but it is an EMR form. So for those of you who work in EMR forms or have staff that you want to take this, they will recognize this in EMR form that they can create. I can tell you that what we did is we offered it. We went out to the payers and we asked them if they themselves could agree to take these forms. And in some cases they would say, well, maybe show us what you mean. We got a little bit of a halfway go ahead kind of acknowledgement. Then we went forward with, okay, we're going to build this and build that. And once we got through a couple of them, it went faster with getting more payers on board. Started with maybe the local. I think, if memory serves, we started with some of the more small local payers who were very likely to be amenable. And these forms, we build them, and they see that they have all the information they want. The payers have been, again, they've been agreeable to take these forms. So I hope that answered your question. Well, I don't think we have any other questions. If you have any other questions, please type them now. Now would be that time to do that. Oh, here's another one. Just to repeat, we have 8 people pre-certing and how many providers? We have 35 physicians and 20.
We have 81 providers.
81
total.
providers total. We have 35 doctors, and of those doctors, 4 of them are pain management providers, 8 of them are anesthesiologists working in surgery. So that's 12 total that are non-surgeons. The rest are surgeons, and they range from podiatrists to spine surgery, spine surgeons. So we have all kinds of providers in that way. I'm trying to think what else there. They're authorizing everything for office visits and for surgery and medications. Medications, I'm sure all of us are feeling that same pain. Medications have really become an issue. We are authorizing preoperative meds. We're authorizing postoperative pain management meds. We're authorizing Lovenox and the other medications that do the fast blood thinner activity for patients who should be on Coumadin or warfarin after surgery. So there's a lot of authorizations going into a lot of medication authorizations, and we're still working on trying to tackle that, but, you know, because it's a growing thing, but the same staff do all of this, is my point. The next question is, can forms from the insurance companies give us, can we operate them into the EMR? Yes and no. You can try to take their forms and actually populate their forms sort of like you're working in an Adobe type of format, but you're going to then have to create an EMR form that just brings up all the relevant information for you, so you can hand type it, or you can do it in the EMR if they'll take your form. So there's two ways you can approach that. We've gotten away from the Adobe retype if we can help it. In fact, I don't think we're using that at all in Precert right now. In some situations, we are using something like that in appeals, not in prior authorization.
We use it as well for our FMLA and disability forms. We found that a lot of those insurance companies take our EMR form. We took a majority of those forms that we were receiving. We copied that format into the encounter form in EMR. So it's pretty similar to the original form. So that has worked pretty well for us.
That we see now, can we see those?
It looks like somebody's wanting to see some encounter forms. Kay, you want to send us an email? We can set up a webinar with you, and we can show you some of the encounter forms kind of in a separate webinar if you're interested in doing something like that.
And I think there's now a question on the denial form again. So we might go back and let's look at the denial form again. With us here just a moment. I think the question here was, could we just go through it again a little bit? So we'll just slow it down and go back a little bit. We'll get you that email in just a minute. So this form, we'll just start in the upper left-hand corner where you can't see some of this right now. Is the staff member starting it? So who is this person who's trying now to communicate with the team? And what was denied? You can do surgery, an interventional, or imaging study. We could do other, like medications. The date of the denial, which physician team are you trying to talk to, and what kind of test or surgery was ordered. Right or bilateral, hip, knee, shoulder, spine. Those are things that just kind of help people gravitate towards what they need to work on and who that needs to go to. And then over to the left, the insurance company, what was denied? What did the insurance company say why they weren't going to cover it? The list of things you can pick there. And documentation that the payer said if they had these things, they would consider it or reconsider it. So and then the Precert person signs it, and again, it's not the formal signature in an EMR. This is a routing signature so that they know who they're communicating with. And then it goes to, and then when the person working with the physician team or the physician opens this, they're going to start in that middle area there where it says additional questions. And then would the doctor like to do these things, yes or no? And you'll see that matches that description up above where it says documentation required by payer. I think might have been the question was this order PT, order HEP, order imaging. Those are order buttons. So those forms then now, you know, order PT, it takes you into the orders module. So you're getting those, you're able to get to your orders module right from there. You don't have to go in and out, in and out, in and out. It takes you right there. You can find that order and then return to this form. If anybody wants to see that in a demo, we'd be more than happy to show you that as well. You know, we can be glad to show you more on a fake patient completely. And then going on down, please proceed. And then again, we want to make sure every party who needs to know is told. So this person who's working this at this point is required to make sure and attest that they have spoken to every party that needs to be spoken to. And we have the denial of appeal will be upheld or whatnot, and the peer-to-peer, and then that form is done. So I probably answers that question. And also, I think that probably is going to draw this particular webinar to conclusion. We do have future webinars coming up.
Yes, if you are signed up for our newsletters, or if you get on our website, we will have registration for some series of clinical, for example, some IT, pre-surgical services, so you'll want to stay tuned for those WebExes as well.
I do see one last question, so I'm going to add it in here. How does the pre-cert information get to the billing side? The billing gets the information because it's in the case. If you put your information in case, if you put the ultimate preauthorization number or what have you in the case, it will and the case is attached to the appointment. When the appointment is billed or the surgery is billed because it's on the schedule, that will attach to the case, or the case information, the authorization will attach into the claim form. So it's one of the other added benefits of using cases. My discussions with other other practice leads me to believe that a lot of people don't use cases, and they're maybe missing one of the really gems of the Centricity there. What is the report you are running based on the data in case management? So that's the work list that we showed you earlier on. We use the schedule as our work list. Here. This slide here shows you information that comes from the surgeries, from the schedules, office and surgery schedules, and it also shows you who's working on the case, but it also shows you if the case is authorized, it falls off this list. So if the case has been started, got the asterisks and the initial of an individual who's working on it. If it has not been started or has not been worked on, then it falls to, it comes off this list.
Yep, and you can see we're pulling data from, like Mona had mentioned, case management, also insurance, and then we're also pulling some data from EMR as well. You can see here, for example, this line came from EMR, but that's why we don't have insurance carrier information there.
This is a really robust tool that took us a while to create because we kept adding, oh, well, we need to know this, well, we need to know that. Because what we wanted to do was keep the staff busy working on Precert and not looking at lists of the same names over and over and over.
Another question, do you build cases when no authorization is required? And the answer is we do. We build a case for every single patient that comes in for any new problem. So if somebody comes in with an arm fracture, we're going to build a case for an arm. If somebody comes in later for the leg, we're going to build a separate case for the leg.
If we have a surgery, we open a special case just for the surgery so that we have something that opens and closes just with that event. Same with certain kinds of procedures. We also do for pain management and what have you. We also create a case for that. Again, even if there's no authorization needed, sort of by going through the motion, you know that we're taking care of it and that we didn't miss it.
It also makes creating follow-up appointments much easier for our front office staff. You easily see what the patient has been seen for through the appointments tab, and then build that follow-up information from there. With that,
I think we have now answered all the questions, and we are very grateful for so many people who signed on to the webinar today. And again, you can reach us. I think our contact information is at the end. This webinar was also recorded. I do apologize for the quality of my voice at times during the seminar, but we do have a recording of this, so you are welcome to request it, and we will allow you to listen to it. And certainly, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. And thank you very much for your time today.